Thank you, Jonathan. Yes, we are just moments away from finding out the date of that general election. And you know, as you've just said, that the Chief Minister has confirmed he has asked the Governor to dissolve Parliament. That happened just over an hour ago here at Convent Place. He crossed the road from number 6 to the Convent, the office of the Governor, and emerged a few minutes later with that writ already in place. So yes, a general election has been called, as you said. Unite the Union here protesting outside number 6 on behalf of its members in the Gibraltar Bus Company. Very loud protests, but believe it or not, they say it was a coincidence that they were here, because it was something that they had planned all along, and they didn't even know that a general election was being called. So that's what's happening outside number 6 Convent Place. We're going to make our way into the building, into the press room for that press conference, and we will then find out what that election date is.
Jonathan Sacramento reporting live from outside the office of the Chief Minister, which technically now is it's not vacant. He continues to fulfil the role of Chief Minister in, I suppose, somewhat of a caretaker capacity. There are things that he cannot do while Parliament is dissolved, and things that he can do, and he will also, of course, take on a reinvigorated role as the leader of the GSLP Liberal Alliance. Christine Vasquez, the GBC news editor, is here with me in Broadcasting House. Christine, an exciting morning of news. There had been some speculation, and he has called it. Mr. Picardo has called the election.
Yes, good afternoon, Jonathan. Now is the time when the party machinery will come into its own, and it's all go from here. It's all go in the newsroom as well. What we've done is we've dusted the elections rules, which we dust every 4 years, and it gives us some sort of time frame of what's going to happen, what happens when. So now people will have to start checking whether they are on the register of electors, whether they can vote, when they have to vote till. So the deadline for receiving applications for inclusion in the register, that's not later than 6 p.m. on the 6th day before the day of the election, and day 1 is today. So all these timings start today.
So today's day 1. The time frames that you've described kick in. To state the obvious, now we don't know who the candidates are, because that's what a lot of people's minds will turn to. I'm going to vote, but what are my options? We don't know yet.
No, we don't. And they could keep it, and I'm looking at the Bible, the election Bible, the delivery of nomination papers not later than noon on the 21st day before the day of election. So we could have, it depends how long, we tend to think that it's going to be the 12th or the 19th, only because the last election was on the 17th.
It's always a Thursday.
It's always a Thursday, and there are reasons for that we'll enter into another day. But yes, so we tend to think it could be the 12th, it could be the 19th, and those are the dates that we've had in our minds, only because it is around the 4-year gap.
Now, if you're watching on GBC television, or indeed on the GBC News Facebook page, then you'll have noticed that we're cutting to images of the office of the Chief Minister, the press room, where a press conference is going to be held any minute now, and we will carry that live on both Radio Gibraltar and GBC television, and I think also on the GBC Facebook pages, GBC News and GBC television as well. So we're making sure that you don't miss it, as we did the walk across from the office of the Chief Minister to the office of the Governor. We caught wind that something was about to happen, so we were there, and we've carried it live across our Facebook and Instagram pages, Christine.
That's right, and as you recall, on Friday we did say, okay guys, watch this space. Next Tuesday because we had that flurry of press releases coming in on Friday night. I believe there were 17 press releases coming in that afternoon with announcements.
Again, normally a Friday evening is slower for government news because they think that people are switching off.
Politicians just don't like it. It's a good day to bury bad news, as they say. Don't think this was the case. In this instance, it was more a case of clearing the decks, ready. We've had National Day, we've had the celebrations. It's September, let's get back to work, and back to work means an election.
So everything that they were planning on issuing as a press release, the GSLP Liberal government as they were, everything that they were planning to issue, they sort of have made it a point of getting out on Friday and today.
It almost seemed a bit like it was calling round the ministers and saying, okay guys, what do you have to get out? Let's get it out today while we can.
Lots of pretty pictures. We've had Chatham, we've had today Main Street, refurbishment of...
We had the cruise liner terminal, yes, a lot of pretty pictures.
Okay, and if you're just joining us, an election has been called. We don't know the election date yet, but we are going to find out any moment now. We're going to cross to the office of the Chief Minister, where Fabian Picardo is expected to address journalists and yourselves, the public, the people who he wants to vote for him. No comments so far as I am aware, from the leader of the GSD party, Keith Asopardi, but we will bring you comments from all political parties. We know that Together Gibraltar is also hoping to field some candidates, although they have acknowledged that their sights are set on
my dear fellow Gibraltarians,
opposition if possible.
This morning I held the last meeting of the Gibraltar Council of Ministers of the lifetime of this Parliament. Earlier today, I therefore visited His Excellency the Governor and advised him, under Section 38(1) of the Gibraltar Constitution, to issue a proclamation to dissolve Parliament. That proclamation will be published in the Extraordinary Gazette today. I also advise His Excellency, under the provisions of Section 20 of the Parliament Act, to issue the necessary writ under the public seal of Gibraltar to convene the 2023 general election for the 12th of October this year. The last 4 years have been, without doubt, the toughest 4 years this community has ever faced. Gibraltar's pandemic parliament has also been the backdrop of the toughest negotiations any government of Gibraltar has ever been engaged upon, as we have sought to agree the long and detailed terms upon which we would build our future relationship with the European Union. With grit and determination, we pushed through COVID. And with the same grit and determination, we have done everything in our power to defend Gibraltar's interests through Brexit. Our work on the withdrawal agreement ensured we have avoided the hardest Brexit. To date, our work has ensured that we have been able to avoid the worst of the negative implications leaving the EU could have on Gibraltar. We are in advanced discussions with officials from the EU, Spain, and the UK. We are on the cusp of a historic deal in which all parties win and none lose. For me and the GSLP Liberal team that I lead and have led for 12 years, a deal can only be done if it respects the red lines that we hold dear. British sovereignty over the whole of Gibraltar is not up for sale in exchange for any deal. However sweet the carrot or hard the stick, my answer will never change. Now, the question of whether a deal is safe for Gibraltar will be a matter for the person you choose as your Chief Minister after the 12th of October. So as we embark on this election campaign, let me make something very clear. Gibraltar hasn't come this far to only come this far. During the now dissolved pandemic parliament, with COVID raging, we still built more affordable housing than other administrations managed in normal times. In the pandemic parliament, we have built and opened 3 new schools, more than the previous government did in a full 16 years in office. In 12 years, we have invested in 10 new schools. With your confidence, I have opened more new schools than any other Chief Minister. 4,400 children in our community already benefit from that investment. You cannot have first-class education in second or third-class schools. Our focus on education, education, education has been the linchpin of Gibraltar's economic success over the years. Since the creation of the mandatory university scholarships, it is the GSLP Liberals who have the strongest foundations for our strong economic performance over such a long period of time. For the last 12 years, we have been getting the job done. In housing, in education, in health, and on the environment. On equality, justice, and the social issues, we have been getting the job done of building a modern, vibrant community that cherishes freedom of choice and mutual respect among its citizens. Getting the job of Chief Minister done requires commitment, conviction, and connection. The commitment to put everything to one side and to put Gibraltar first. The conviction of knowing that you're on the right side of history and driving forward no matter what. The connection to all those you come across, friend or foe, citizen or counterpart elsewhere in the world. Without this connection, Gibraltar's interests and the wishes of the Gibraltarians can never be fully understood, defended, or advanced. The three qualities demanded of a Chief Minister today are the three qualities by which you will judge the suitability of myself and anybody else who puts their name forward for the role to get your vote, to get the job done after the 12th of October. So, my dear fellow Gibraltarians, Gibraltar did not come this far to only come this far. Through challenge after unprecedented challenge, the GSLP Liberals have brought Gibraltar to where it is now. We are the team with the vision and the commitment to push on through to the next episode in the wonderful story of the people of Gibraltar. We've done so much. We have so much still to do. And now is not the time in our collective history as a people to change the team, getting things done and keeping Gibraltar safe. With your support on the 12th of October, we will continue to get the job done. And with your support on the 12th of October, we will continue to keep Gibraltar safe. Thank you very much indeed. I'll take questions from the media here at number 6 Convent Place.
Chief Minister, in the 2019 general election, you fought that election on the basis that you said that you were the only party that could get Brexit done and get a safe and secure deal for Gibraltar. And now, 4 years later, you're asking for that same mandate again. So what would you say to those who might accuse you of having failed to secure that mandate first time round?
Well, first of all, that question is based on the false premise that we didn't get Brexit done. We got Brexit done safely for Gibraltar because after the 2019 general election, we delivered the withdrawal agreement, which was what Brexit was about. Brexit was leaving the European Union. What we're talking about now is the deal for the future relationship between Gibraltar and the European Union, which deal I've already shared with you and your colleagues would have been done in the lifetime of this Parliament, but two things got in the way. First of all, 2 years of COVID, which made negotiation very difficult. We started the negotiation in October 2021 for the future relationship, and then in scrupulous respect of the democratic process, Pedro Sanchez called a general election after negative municipal and regional election results in Spain, and that of course stopped the clock, literally a timeout for the negotiations. I've told you that I had asked ministers to be available in Gibraltar the last week of August because I felt that by then, and the timetable timetable that we talked about with other colleagues in the negotiating room. By then, we expected to have the text of a treaty, which I would have put to the Cabinet of Ministers, which I would then have taken to the Gibraltar Parliament and indeed have delivered in that time. I think we've got as close to delivering as it is humanly possible to get, and indeed in the context of everything that we have done in these 4 years, I challenge anyone to suggest that any other team could have done more in the teeth of COVID, in the grip of all of the difficulties that Brexit has created for Gibraltar, to see Gibraltar today still not suffering the worst effects of Brexit as we might have been suffering if we hadn't secured the withdrawal agreement after the 2019 general election, if we didn't have the ongoing negotiations that we have today. People must not forget that Brexit was 2 stages. 1, the departure from the European Union, and 2, the new relationship with the EU. And today, look, subject to the vicissitudes of the relationship between Gibraltar and Spain as they have been for the past 30 or 40 years, that frontier is flowing thanks to the work that Joseph and all of the teams that I have led have been able to do to ensure that we have not had a hard Brexit despite having left the European Union. Thank you very much.
And in the last 4 years, there's been a lot of unprecedented situations that you might not have actually thought of, such as COVID, like you said, and the war with Russia and Ukraine, to name a few. Do you believe that your party has set out to achieve the majority of what you put in your manifestos back in 2019?
Well, thank you very much. Indeed, you're right. I mentioned COVID and I mentioned Brexit, but I have failed to mention the war in Ukraine and the fact that Russia illegally invaded Ukraine, which caused a huge rise in the cost of fuel, which led to the inflation that we've seen and the cost of living issues being faced by so many, which we in government have tried to ameliorate as best as we have been able to in successive budgets, in fact, in 2022 and in 2023. Those were unprecedented challenges, but look, being chief minister means having to deal with those issues. Being in government as a team means that the cabinet has to deal with those unexpected issues, and with the support of Joseph and my cabinet colleagues, we have been able to do 2 things. Deal with the issues as they have arisen, and my goodness, COVID is probably the biggest issue that we ever expected to face months after the 2019 general election, as we were getting into the rhythm of delivering against the 2019 manifesto, but indeed, not just deal with COVID. We dealt with COVID, and at the same time, we kept the wheels turning on as many of the commitments contained in the 2019 manifesto as it was humanly possible to deliver against. And some of them, as you know, are delayed. I'm so disappointed that we have not been able to deliver many of the other commitments which were in the manifesto. But of course, there have been finance issues because we ensured that everybody had food to put on the table during COVID, because we paid people even when they weren't working. We paid people even who didn't work for the government so that they had food to put on the table. I'm so disappointed that we've handed over 380 affordable homes, a huge number, magnificent homes that people are delighted with at Hassan Centenary Terraces, with the keys being exchanged in coming weeks and months, but that we haven't delivered the other homes at the phase 2 of Hassan Centenary Terraces at Bob Belisa and at Chatham, which are still being built, but being built they are, because we pushed through to ensure that they are being built. Look, all of those things I will of course regret. Nobody can imagine that I wanted anything other than to be able to deliver those homes as well. It would be a much easier general election for me to come here and say I delivered all the affordable homes. So nothing has stood in our way every day that we have been in government to try to deliver against that, but there's certainly something very positive in the delivery that we've done of the new schools. 10 new schools in 12 years, 3 new schools just this month delivered for the children who needed those schools. Refurbishments still to be done in respect of 1 school, new school to be delivered to the Jewish community, a new college which is in the process of being built as well. That, I think, is a remarkable record on which I am pleased to be judged. And of course, although we haven't delivered on everything in the manifesto, I challenge anyone to seriously, genuinely say that they would have put more effort, that they would have somehow been able to deliver more of the manifesto, which was more ambitious already than anybody else's manifesto in the 2019 general election campaign, and that they would have been able to do more faced with those challenges, not just to face off those challenges, but to continue to deliver against scrutinised the manifesto, and I know that the team that's been sitting opposite me in Parliament for the past 4 years certainly could not have done more if they had been in government. I doubt whether they would even have got anywhere near delivering half what we have delivered in this time in the context of their own manifesto, which was already less ambitious, as no doubt their manifesto will be less ambitious in this general election. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Bigaldo, after 3 terms in office, there are some disgruntled voters. We see them visibly today outside number 6 Convent Place, a bus driver's strike. I know that although Brexit may have been the dominant issue, domestically, what are your key areas that you're going to be focusing in throughout your campaign?
So look, I think you're absolutely right that after 12 years in government, there are people who have fallen out with you. And sometimes the people who fall out with you are falling out with you because you've done the right thing. You've done the thing that everybody else believes should be done and is indeed the right thing for you to do as a government, because as a government, you're representing all citizens and all of the taxpayers, not just giving to those who want. And sometimes necessarily some noses will be put out of joint. And as I've said to many colleagues in the past years, sometimes even the government doesn't agree with what the government has to do. But you just have to do it because it's the right thing to do, and it's what you are obliged in representation of the people to do, even if it then makes you more lackluster in the eyes of the community. To an extent, you're paid to be unpopular, even though politics is a popularity contest, because you have to do the right thing. But on domestic issues, we have to be very clear that housing, health and education are always going to be the dominant issues. But we've done so much on the environment, on social justice, on equality, on sport, in all of the areas of responsibility of the ministers, of the Council of Ministers and Cabinet of Gibraltar. We have really excelled, at least in effort, if not in attainment, in the context of what we have done in the past 12 years. I mean, nobody can tell me that we could have done more or that we had left a stone unturned. We made mistakes. Of course we make mistakes. We're not able to give to people everything that they want. Of course we can't give people everything that they want. We have to prioritize key areas like, for example, health, housing and education above everything else. Of course we have to, and that means that some people in other areas might feel that we're not doing enough. And indeed, in housing, health and education, some people say that we might have been able to do more, that we might have been able to go faster. This is always going to be a balance. Being in government to a very great extent is about keeping all the plates spinning with enough inertia, with enough finance, that things keep going. That's what management is about. And unfortunately, there are some people who are disgruntled. I tell them with my hand on my heart that we have not failed them in any way that is designed to hurt them. What we have done is always to try and do the best for Gibraltar, even if we have not been able to reach them quick enough, even if we might have been able to do something that we have not been able to do in time, even if we would have wished to do something for them that we have not been unable to do, in particular in this pandemic parliament with COVID and its ravaging of our public finances. But we've never acted out of anything other than good faith in trying to represent every single Gibraltarian and resident of Gibraltar and to help everyone as much as we can, regardless of the colour of the political affiliation or what it is that they might have wanted to pray in aid our assistance for. Always in good faith we have tried to act. If we have failed some, or they perceive that we have failed them, then I'm very sorry to say that it could not have been by dint of putting more effort in it that we might have corrected that, because in terms of effort we've left everything that we had in trying to do our best for the people of Gibraltar in the past 4 years and in the past 12 years, putting service above self on every occasion, and it's been tough. I mean, it's one thing I've learned in the past 4 years is as I've said before, that politics is tough, but life is even tougher. Thank you all very much indeed. On the 12th of October 2023, Gibraltar will go to the polls. The people of Gibraltar will now decide who should run Gibraltar, who should be the government of Gibraltar, and who should be Gibraltar's Chief Minister after the 12th of October 2023. I will be putting my name forward for selection by the Gibraltar Socialist Labour Party's Executive Committee, and I hope that I will be back here on the 13th of October as Chief Minister again. Thank you very much indeed.